Hello and welcome to Warren on Patreon. Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Boy, we got a lot to show you tonight and a lot to tell you. There is much that has gone on, and of course, there is a major story that is brewing. There's also a major story as well that we suspect is not true, and one that we suspect is true. But we'll get into that. Have a look at this. So there we are, funding a genocide. We will get into that. We'll be naming the banks who are giving Israel money, and of course the City of London in itself. And we'll be telling you exactly which banks are controlled and who buy. And of course, we'll be getting deeply into that as we go. Now, what have we got for you tonight? Well, we've got a really, really bad story coming out of the US camp in Baghdad, where soldiers could be heard screaming as they were burning, as of course that came under attack. We'll be talking about Trump coming out with absolute nonsense. Chris Wright, the energy secretary, coming out with the same thing. We'll be talking about the F-15s, a couple of F-15s that have gone down that nobody is talking about. And of course, the food slaughter centers that have been shut down in Gaza. We'll be showing you a video of the Iraqi drone who had a fly around the US airbase before actually striking. We'll be addressing rumors about Netanyahu. We'll also be talking about General Carney. We'll be talking about what's been taken off from Lakenheath and that we've been party to this war. We'll be talking about the Marines that were only 24 hours ago sailing off Luzon in the Philippines, getting ready to land. We'll be talking about the B-1s, the B-52s. As I say, the City of London, Dubai having almost no air defense whatsoever. We'll be talking about Carg Island, some of the nonsense that's coming out from Trump. We'll be showing northern Israel being lit up by the Iranians and the Negev airbase. We'll be showing you videos of Tel Aviv. We'll be talking about the peace deal. We'll be talking about Mashish Alinejad, Netanyahu, as I said, and some of the nonsense that's gone on with the Fujairah plant. So there is absolutely a ton to get through tonight. Hopefully we'll be joined by Lembit Opik at some point. Sometimes on a Sunday is a little bit slow. I am just going to say one thing here. If you like what we do here, pop across to Warren, go to Patreon, type in Patreon, and then type in Warren Thornton. Come and subscribe, come and have your say, come and listen to the news. Now, the reason I'm saying this is we've been very, very kindly treated by, shall we say, some other people, not so kindly by the Western press, but very, very simply, if you go back over our back catalogue and you want true news, go back over our back catalogue and then challenge me on anything that we've said on this programme that you think that isn't true or might not be true. We have a massive, massive, shall we say, reputation for getting things right here. I'm just going to get Lembit Opik into the chat. I'm going to promote him now. Lembit, obviously the former MP and all-round good egg. And of course, we'll have him with us any second now, who regularly appears on Sunday night with the. I don't think they're coming to get me, no. But there are Marines that are off, very simply, off there. And of course, they might well be trying for Carg Island. And if they are, good luck to them, because I think that would be an absolutely absurd and very stupid thing to do. Carg Island is still up and running, by the way. So just in case you didn't know. So while we're waiting for Lembit to get sorted, because he's probably only just got back, we're going to get into a couple of things here. And the very first thing we want to do is address the nonsense surrounding that Keir Starmer didn't know. Good evening, Lembit. How are you?
Greetings, and sorry about last week. I was in a war zone.
You were.
I was in Cyprus.
You were. And very, very simply, we'll be talking a little bit about Cyprus tonight. Lovely to have you with us, as always. And of course, we have to address now our friends, shall we say, in Whitehall, and we have quite a few of those who feed us some very good information. And as I say, if you want to know what's really going on, come across to Patreon. So just sign up to Warren Thornton. Go through our back catalogue. We tell the truth here. Not propaganda. Very, very simply, we were told ages ago that Keir Starmer was responsible for the appointment of Peter Mandelson, that we told you that he knew. We'd had this from Whitehall sources. It now turns out that Whitehall have thrown him under the bus. They have said that Keir Starmer not only knew that Peter Mandelson was a risk, they also knew that, of course, he was still friends with Epstein, and under no circumstances should he be appointed to any government position. Now, they briefed Keir Starmer on this personally. So they are throwing him under the bus. There is a leak that's gone on, and we're going to show you exactly why that has gone on. And then we're going to ask Lembit for his thought. So this is one of the reasons why Keir Starmer, Peter Mandelson, and Jeffrey Epstein, you will remember last night, we actually showed you the list, the proper list, from our sources that allowed you to see which people had been having sex, which people hadn't been, and which people were trying to cover up the Epstein files. Well, we've got this for you. Have a look. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long. Please watch very carefully, because there are questions afterwards. Hello. Let's have a look at Keir Starmer, Peter Mandelson, and of course, Jeffrey Epstein, and all their links to Israel. And we'll start with the links going everywhere to almost everyone in society. Peter Mandelson has been arrested for passing secrets on to Jeffrey Epstein. His second in command, Morgan McSweeney. Peter Mandelson, Keir Starmer, and Israel. There are links everywhere from Mandelson to Epstein to Israel. These include former Prime Ministers and Prime Ministers to be. Morgan McSweeney, Labour Friends of Israel and Mandelson's right-hand man, and his wife, who Mandelson helped get elected. Wes Streeting of the Bilderberg Group and a possible next Prime Minister. Margaret Hodd, who has her own problems with paedophiles. Wes Streeting knew Peter Mandelson well.
A very willful boy. A rather naughty boy.
Don't worry, Peter, we will say it's the Russians.
Other people were implicated too, such as Prince Andrew, and of course, many people in the United States protecting them from the Epstein files. People like Pam Bondi and links to Israel. Kash Patel and his girlfriend, links to Israel. Emily Maitlis and her chums in the media trying to protect Mandelson from the Epstein file by saying it was the Russians. Turns out he was passing secrets onto Epstein. Mandelson then had to resign from his lordship and also was arrested. McSweeney had to resign over the scandal. American politicians and naval people had to resign, all because of Israel, Epstein Island, and Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Gates was another one who was hugely implicated, who has been to meet Keir Starmer. Prince Andrew, who was protected for years by the royal family. And of course, we have to talk about Labour's peccadillos and what they have been up to. Many of these people that you are seeing now in these pictures have either been arrested for sexual misconduct or trying to entice 13-year-olds into sexual relations and have been arrested by the police, and it's all been kept very, very quiet, including putting somebody up 5 days after they were arrested for election. Dubious friendships from cabinet secretaries. Peter Mandelson, Jeffrey Epstein and Keir Starmer. Mandelson's home rented from Nathaniel Rothschild. The Darren Jones, Nick Thomas, Jonathan Reynolds, Labour Friends of Israel, every single one trying to stop you seeing the grooming gang report. Trevor Chin, Jacob Rothschild, former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Morgan McSweeney, big friend of Labour Friends of Israel. Wes Streeting been on visits to Israel. And of course, Palantir, whose owner, Peter Thiel, wrapped up with Mandelson. Labour councillors on Labour Friends of Israel trips. And of course, Keir Starmer, who has his own links with Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Mandelson. Keir Starmer knew, and now everybody knows he knew. He told you. This is a man who didn't want a grooming gang inquiry. Remember? Why would Israel not want a grooming gang inquiry full of Muslims and convicted paedophiles? Would it be because they're funding the Labour Party and half the people who have peccadillos in that area? Is that why Israel don't want that? Is that why there was no grooming gang inquiry?
Man sells his soul to the devil. It all ends in tears. These arrangements usually do.
But the most shocking thing that Israel control is the City of London, and we're going to show you exactly what goes on. So there we are. That was just a short video showing the Labour Friends of Israel and all the links that go on there. Did it shock you at all, Emmett? I know we talked about it all the time, and we said that it's almost impossible for him not to know. Now it's actually out there legally and officially. Keir Starmer knew all about Mandelson's appointment. In fact, he was warned not to appoint it.
Yes, a couple of questions there. I'll answer yours if you answer this first.
Yeah.
You said that Keir Starmer had his own links with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you know that?
Through Peter Mandelson, yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, I understand. Now to answer your question. None of it really surprises me because your intuitions are usually right in life. And even though the mainstream media repeatedly say, of course, being in the files is no evidence of wrongdoing. How many times do you have to hear that before you end up asking this innocent question? Okay, let's see everything. Let's see everything. Not just the names of the victims, the unredacted names of everybody else in it. Why, if these people have done nothing wrong, if there's no evidence of wrongdoing, why can't we see the names? It's a contradiction, Warren. It's a contradiction. I've met some people who are paedophiles. I knew Hugh Edwards. I've worked with him. I've no reason to conceal it because I happen to not be involved in his activities. I can give you a character assessment of him, but it doesn't bother me. I've been on television with him. I wouldn't want my name redacted from the interviews that I've done. I've only been in the presence of Jimmy Savile one time. It was horrendous, bad karma. But I wouldn't have my name redacted from the fact I happened to stand on a cruise ship deck with him one time. Didn't talk to him, but I was in his presence. Horrible feeling. So why are they all being redacted? That's the big question. Now, other things from your video, you're suggesting a certain link with the country. Well, a lot of people are saying that. And it would be very helpful if, once again, we saw all of it, including the 6 warehouses full, which I'm told have been discovered of Epstein files. Leading me to my third. I've got lots of comments, but the third one is, who in the world do we know to have 6 warehousefuls of information about other people they knew? Jeffrey Epstein must be one of a kind if he did this all on his own. He did it all for himself.
Yeah,
and his mystery brilliance came from some mystery, brilliant business ability. His Lolita Express private jets, a Boeing 727. Now that's like a 200-seater triple-engined passenger plane. It all came from his brilliant business prowess. So you add all that together, Warren, and it leads to one big demand. Let's see everything. And then if you're innocent, it'll be obvious. And if you're not innocent, probably it'll be obvious too. And then we see the smoking guns. And then we maybe see the links. And that ties into the inference of your video.
Yeah, absolutely does. And of course, we revealed last night the names that we knew from, obviously, the files that we haven't seen, but from two sources that have actually seen them and said that they can't go public with them because they'd be arrested immediately. But we did name the names. We named the names of the people who had actually had sexual relations with girls that were procured by Epstein, and also Epstein's the enablers of the people who are actively trying to block those Epstein files coming out. And that was from government sources.
After we are no longer on the part which is openly broadcast, I think it would be interesting, perhaps after we finish the broadcast, to hear what you have to say on that. I guess we can't do that now because that's a bridge too far.
We did name them on our Patreon wall, but exactly. We will go on afterwards, and we will have a chat about the people, because I have the entire list. There's 42 people that have had sexual relations, and we're more than happy to put that out there because we know it to be true, and we challenge any one of those that we name to come forward and tell us we're lying. Because we know it to be true. And we also gave a list of all the enablers. The other thing that is really, really important to know is, and Vic George might be interested in this, the City of London. So who's helping to fund all this nonsense that's going on? Now, we'll talk a bit more about Akrotiri Air Base and all this. Let's actually give you the banks and everybody else that have been helping these out. So in the City of London, just to let you know, there are 95 actual banks within a square area, that City of London area. Now, there are lots of hedge funds and lots of asset management groups and all sorts of things, but actual banks, there are actually 95 in total. So we're going to get into who's been helping out and who hasn't been helping out when it comes to the financing of Israel. Now, the least complicit banks or have been either of only a little bit, or they have been funding a lot. Al Rayyan, we're going to name them here: Cooperative Bank, Cumberland Building Society, the Metro Bank, Monza, Nationwide Building Society, Revolut, Starling, and Tridos. That is in the City of London banks. They are the least, shall we say, right up there in terms of the culprits. Right up there at the very, very top.
So they were the good guys.
They are semi-good guys. They still have. Let me say this. I was going to say it at the end, but I'm going to say it now. Of the 95 current banks that they have in the City of London, I can tell you now, 79 of them have either a CEO who is directly linked to Israel or has worked for the Rothschilds as, in their banking sector and is now a CEO of another bank. So that's just to let you know that well over 75% of those banks have either a CEO who is directly linked to Israel or has worked for the Rothschilds. And the banks that come out the worst, supporting not only the facilitation of buying weapons through whoever is selling them, and of course we've got arms dealers and governments selling weapons to Israel, are Barclays, HSBC, JP Morgan, the Lloyds Group, NatWest, and I'm ashamed to say, because I used to bank with them, the Santander Group. Now, the assessment is against three different policies and practices. So the first one is around weapons and the military, including some of the most controversial weapons, providing financing for weapons and the military, and financing current companies linked to settlements. Okay, for the ones that we did back that we named that not so much involved, we had three aspect ratings: the least complicit, no involvement or had a policy against financing; middle was some involvement, the company not mentioned in major investigative reports or anything that we could dig up; and the most complicit are actively funding military involvements with no restrictions at all. So let's give you a summary of this. Triodos, they were the best on weapons policy, then Nationwide, then Cumberland, then Al Ryan, then Starling, then Revolut, then Metro Bank, then Monza. Then the Cooperative Bank was in the middle. It has had some funding. The Virgin Money Group has done massive funding. And of course, we have to find out Bank of Ireland, TSB, Danske Bank, ICICC were terrible. And of course, Svenska Handelsbanken, to get their name right, were absolutely complicit. NatWest were also very, very bad. HSBC were also bad. They had done, now most of those I've named there, did 2 out of 3 of those things. Now, all 3 things that we mentioned, and that, of course, is selling weapons, financing them, and also complicit in making sure all the settlements and everything else got done. And these are the top 4 worst. They are the Banco Santander Group, Lloyds Banking, Barclays, and JP Morgan. And the company that prohibits financing weapons are Al Ryan, Cumberland Building Society, Danske Bank, HSBC, Metro Bank, Monza, Nationwide, Revolut, Starling, and Triodos. Some restrictions, I'll just co-op and NatWest, no or very limited restrictions on financing weapons militarily, and without doubt, the most controversial are Banco Santander, Bank of Ireland, Barclays, ICICI, JP Morgan, Lloyds Banking Group, Svenska Handelsbanken, TSB, and Virgin Money. On the policy compliance, absolutely refusing under any circumstances to have anything to do with it. It was exactly the same. The ICICI recently financed Boeing, of course, and of course we're talking about armed banking. These are people who have not only given money, should we say, to various people carrying out weapons deals, but also, should we say, that have been complicit in funding Israel to do with the bombing of Gaza and now Iran. The ICICI recently financed Airbnb and Bookings Holding and the TSB. And then, of course, you've got Banco Santander and many others, and lots of people, shall we say, starting to jump up and down on this. Let's get into JP Morgan then. 6th of the top 100 international banks financing arms companies with exports linked to Gaza. That is armed banking and a joint responsibility. They recently financed Boeing, Elbit, General Dynamics, Leonardo, Lockheed Martin, and RTX Corporation, and also financed Caterpillar, Coca-Cola, and Bookings Holdings. Barclays were 19th in all the international banks, and of course, they are the 4th largest European creditor of complicit companies and 7th largest investor of the companies arming Israel. the third largest European creditor of companies linked to settlements, and the 11th largest investor overall. They recently financed BAE Systems, Boeing, Caterpillar, Elbit, General Dynamics, Quinta-Q, Raytheon, and of course Rolls-Royce. The Banco Santander are 36th at the top of the 100 international banks. They are the 7th largest European creditor of complicit companies and recently financed Boeing, Leonardo, and Rolls-Royce. They are the 6th largest European creditor of companies linked to settlements. Lloyds Bank, 35th on the top 100 international around the world financing arms companies. They are the 6th largest European creditor of complicit companies. They have financed Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, and Rolls-Royce. And HSBC, we're going to go through these. HSBC, 45th of the international banks. They are the 13th largest European creditor, and they've invested in Boeing, General Dynamics, Leonardo, Lockheed Martin, and RTX Corporation, which are a particularly nasty company. NatWest was 75th out of the 100, and they are the 18th largest European creditor, financing only Leonardo and Rolls-Royce, and are the 20th largest European creditor of companies linked to settlements. Danske Bank, the 15th largest European creditor of companies linked to settlements, and the 39th largest investor. And finally, the Svenska Handelsbanken, 31st largest European creditor of companies linked to settlements, and the 19th largest investor in companies that sell weapons of mass destruction. Lembe.
It's impossible to process all of that. But the answer to represent the banks would be, we're not here to make moral judgments. We're here to make money.
Yeah.
And we're not doing anything illegal, they would say. So frankly, go and invest in your money with companies that don't look after your money so well. That's what they say. If you want to invest with us, you get a higher return because we go to Boeing and the other profitable companies. That's what they'd say.
Yes, absolutely they would. But just to let you know that what we have there is in the City of London, either CEOs for the Rothschilds that have either worked for the Rothschilds or are directly linked to Israel. So not only is our parliament completely infiltrated, Lembe, but so it seems is the City of London banks where most of this financing is being run from.
Well, you used the word infiltrated. What Rothschilds would say, because they haven't got anything else to do, they only seem to live for money, and so we just do that well. They'd say, you can moan all you want, Warren, with your little stupid program, and you're moaning many wokey, right on, let's make love, not war, mantras. But we, the Rothschilds, keep this world turning, and you may not like it, but greed is good. There's a lot of profit to be made in destruction. And we're not breaking the law. But at you namby-pambies, you'll just roll over and let Russia invade and run over the whole of Europe. That's what you want, Warren Thornton, you peacenik. That's what they'd say.
Yeah,
they might not say it quite so directly, but that would be the inference. What would you say to that?
What I would turn around and say to that is, by the way, how did you enjoy paying for bombs that kill 160 children in a school?
It's regrettable. Nothing's been proved. We're looking into it. That's the fog of war. But I suppose people like you would be happy for the whole of the Middle East to be overruled by Iran. The bad people of Iran. I have to say, in parenthesis, even though I'm trying to keep up this banking facade, I noticed with interest, if you're watching this live, that a very senior spokesman for Iran pointed out that when Donald Trump said, "Well, yeah, Iran wants to have peace talks, but Trump isn't ready for them," they said, "No, actually, we're not going to have those peace talks because last time we were talking, you attacked us." That's another story for another point. Returning to this, I would say that the response will be, depending how direct they want to be, will be to say, we're just going to carry on doing it because people like you can moan from the sidelines. But frankly, if you want a decent pension, we've got to put the money in the most profitable returns. And we're not a charity, and we're not a church, and we're not ideologically motivated to bite our fingernails and say, "Oh, is this good lot going to be bad?" But that's what they'd say.
Yeah, and I would turn around and say, take your money out of that bank and go and put your money in somebody who doesn't finance war. Nillis.
Well, the thing is, the Jewish bankers created the banking system anyway. If you look at the Bank of England, which is the mother of all central banks, it was created by William of Orange, and it was created because he owed the Jewish bankers of Holland for all the bribery that he had to use to become king after the Glorious Revolution. And as we know, we don't know who owns the bank, who has the shares in the Bank of England. We know that it's a sovereign. They have their own sovereignty. The city of the Square Mile was given sovereignty by William the Conqueror, who was also financed by the Jewish bankers, and that system is spread in central banking throughout the world. The Federal Reserve was founded in 1918. Sorry, I think it was just before the First World War, if I remember. And it's also all the Federal Reserve buildings also have their own sovereignty, as does the Bank of International Settlement. So all the land around is there. They have their own police and everything else like that.
There is one. Sorry.
Go on,
no, that's fine. But the thing is, it's what's built the British Empire to a certain extent. It's what's built the American Empire, but it's a parasitical thing because it can build countries up for the development of the world as they see it. It can also destroy countries and cause economic disasters as well.
Okay, Lembit.
Yeah, just two observations. As is quite clearly demonstrated in the works of Shakespeare, there was a certain anti-Semitism going on in the United Kingdom. It was really very bad in Shakespeare's time. And one reason why Jews ended up running money lending is because it was one of the very few things they were allowed to do in anti-Semitic Britain at the time. So I don't really hold that against them. I actually don't really tend to talk about Judaism except in theological discussions, because my issue here is something else. My issue is that while the Rothschilds may have strong Jewish connections and so on, there's a general elite which is ever more exposed. Now it's falling apart. The facade's falling down, and we're seeing connections between people who are Jews and aren't Jews and everything else, but they're all united by a desire for power and wealth. It's almost like they worship that, having sort of abandoned what I would regard as more noble religious motivations. That's what I tend to think. So while I understand many of these people may be Jewish, neither George W. Bush nor Tony Blair were Jewish when they started the illegal war in Iraq, which kicked off a lot of the problems we see now. And we don't tend to say, well, that's what you get with the Catholics, even though Tony Blair was clearly a Catholic. And this is why I think it's unwise to say, oh, this is what the Jews do, but this is what very powerful organizations do. And we've talked before about Israel being a superb lobbying organization. They get money from America in particular. They spend that money in various ways, and then they reinvest some of that money in lobbying America again to get more money. They really are a case study in effective lobbying. But once again, that's not about being Jewish. I'm sure there are lots of people I know who are Jewish, and I just don't happen to know it. My issue is more that wherever Netanyahu was, whether he's a Muslim or an atheist, as I suspect he probably really is, or a Protestant, he did really bad things. and that's my issue. I've got an issue with the man. But in terms of the global elite, I think they're in big trouble now, because it's all beginning to fall apart. They're still fighting this desperate rearguard action to try to cover up the Epstein files. And the
Yes.
World Economic Forum has suffered a bit as well, having got rid of Klaus Schwab, its inventor,
Yes.
as for the usual reason,
And
alleged
Borger
sexual implications.
Brenda had to resign, of course, because he's in the Epstein files.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Once again, why did he resign if he's done nothing wrong? Why did he resign? And so,
Yeah.
so that's where it all begins to. I don't know what I met. Bernd Brendan, was totally unimpressed with him. I don't know. Didn't talk to him about religion. I don't know what he stands for. But these people are united by worshipping at the false idols of greed and power. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And then if they've done things which were improprieties, oh, but nothing has been proved, of course. Being involved with Epstein, there's no evidence of guilt. But if there's something going on there, then suddenly, for reasons which are not to do with being a Christian or a Catholic or a Protestant, suddenly you begin to see that what unites them are very, very dark and superficial motives, which mean that sociopaths shine and empaths get oppressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Nilis, very briefly.
Well, yeah, I think Vic George and OPEC are right to a certain extent. These people aren't Jews as such. They are Nimrodic Jews. When Nimrod was the grandson of Noah, who went back to worship Baal and Satanism, and their whole plan is to reconstruct the temple and bring in the rule of what we call the Antichrist.
Okay. Let's get into some of the stuff that we need to get into because, of course, there are people. There's a couple of rumors going around, so we're gonna try and quash. There's two or three actually. So first of all, let's deal with this. The Ayatollah is slightly injured, but is well alive. That is from we're hearing that from a couple of different sources who we trust. So we're okay on that one. The second one, of course, is whether or not, shall we say, good old Netanyahu is still alive. And there's been lots and lots of talk about this one. What we do know is that there were flights 5 days ago from Akrotiri Air Base to Ramstein Air Force Base and then back to Israel. Now, we know that he landed at Ramstein Air Force Base. And, of course, his plane has been there for a while. And then a military plane took off from Akrotiri to go to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany and then flew back to Israel. That doesn't prove that he's alive, but he was on board a flight to Akrotiri, and we can, of course, confirm that that is true. And, of course, the same day, around about 11 o'clock at night, that plane then flew back. Now, we've got lots of people coming out with all sorts of different theories. And, of course, there are, shall we say, very shaky videos out there, which nobody really believes for 1 second are, shall we say, legal. Now, we did get this. Let's have a little look at this. We did see this, which I thought was quite interesting. So I'm going to pull this up for you. Let's have a look at this chap here. Here we go. Let me see if I can just square that away for you, and we'll get into it.
To Kabak, he goes by @KTurk_1905 1919 over on X, and he says Netanyahu died on March 11th in a hospital in Germany. May he have abundant fire. I think that means may he burn in hell for all of eternity. I think at least that's what I'm hoping. Journalist speech translates into, according to my source, the shelters where Benjamin Netanyahu was hiding was hit by a Fatima missile from Iran on March 2nd. He was then put in an artificial coma, and they wanted to get him out of the country. But when they asked European countries for help, they all said, no thanks. Only Germany accepted him. As we all know, the plane called Wing of Zion was seen in Berlin, Germany. He stayed in a coma for about a week and died on March 11th. They say they will publish this news tomorrow on the 15th, and this is definite information according to my sources.
Right, so let's get into that. First of all, he wouldn't have been taken to Berlin. No chance, absolutely none. There would be too much chance of that leaking out. If he was going to be taken anywhere, if he was dead, then he would be taken somewhere like Ramstein Air Force Base, where they could secure the compound and nobody would know anything was going on. But we do know that he was on board a flight to Akrotiri. So whether that was him or his body, we don't know. Of course, there's a video of him going into a coffee shop. There is definitely some AI content in there. and of course the dates don't match and everything else. But until we hear proper, how can I put this, straightforward evidence that he is no longer alive, you have to assume that he is alive. By the other token, though, the two other places that should we say, the buildings that his brother was in, and of course the home of Ben Gvir, were both hit. And I believe, because he has a very big presence on social media, and it is my belief that Benjamin Yahu's brother may not be around, and we need to see a video of him to make sure that he is, because he had a huge social presence. He was on always, never off social media, and never out of the way. And of course, all posting stopped then, and that might be simply because his brother died. We do not know. But when we know, we will tell you. But we're only going with factually what we know. Factually, we know he was in Germany, him or his body was in Germany 5 days ago. And of course, that is no proof of anything. Lembit, Scott Ritter has actually come out and claimed that Netanyahu is either dead or seriously wounded, that his brother is dead, and that they came out with a car accident. Now, Netanyahu's brother was injured in a car accident back in 2024, so that's regurgitating an old story. But Scott Ritter is adamant that not only Ben Gvir, the minister, and also Benjamin Netanyahu are both either seriously injured or dead.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like, for those who loathe him, wistful thinking.
Yes.
Sounds like propaganda. Just in the same way that Putin was meant to be on his last legs years ago. He's still around.
Yes.
I just don't think so. I think if he was dead, he has enough enemies in Israel itself for us to have been told.
Yeah.
What would be more convenient than a dead Netanyahu giving more moderate people in Israel the chance to say to Iran, look, let's stop this.
Yeah.
That's what I would guess might happen. There's the argument the hardliners would take over, but very few people would be as hardline as Netanyahu himself.
I would say then treat the idea that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead. Very much we're hearing that he was in Germany for 5 days and then was flown back to his own country. So I would turn around and say I would treat with great skepticism, much as there are people out there would love that to be true because of the people he's killed and all the rest of it. And he is probably the most horrific leader out there at the moment. As much as you might want it to be true and yearn for it to be true, I would treat any reports like that with great skepticism for the time being. There may be more that comes to light. We never rule anything out, but if there is a body, it certainly wasn't flown to Berlin. If it had gone to Berlin, of course, there would be too much chance of leakage coming out. So it would definitely be kept on an Air Force base. Nilis.
Yeah, I don't think he's dead, but if he was dead, for example, we know who would take his place.
If he was gone, I would imagine Ben Gvir would probably, if he's not gone as well. But there are any number of hardliners that will quite happily step up.
Are they worse or better than him in terms
So
of their...
they're on the same level as Netanyahu, so it won't be any better.
This is why it doesn't matter, really. It's very dangerous to take people out like that. That's one reason why Donald Trump's curious decision to kill the Ayatollah Khamenei seemed to me rather precocious for two reasons. One is it sets a really dangerous precedent.
It does. But
the second one is because you and I both know, everybody watching this program all over the world knows that if Vladimir Putin wanted to kill Vladimir Zelensky, he could do it.
Yeah.
Without any trouble at all.
Yeah.
Without any trouble at all. And he hasn't done that because there are good strategic reasons to keep the chief negotiators in position. There are very good reasons for doing that. You create chaos and unpredictable results if you start killing the leaders. Second thing is that you don't know what. Well, that's the first thing. The second thing is you hear these stories so much, but it's almost impossible to conceal the death of a leader. because somebody nearby will say so. Death of Stalin wasn't concealed well, and even though there was a great terror in the Soviet Union at the time, and the Queen's death, it went like wildfire across the country before it was officially announced in the United
It
Kingdom.
did.
QE2, Queen Elizabeth II. So I don't tend to categorize this as particularly useful information. I tend to regard it as gossip because it
Yeah.
doesn't change the fundamental problem. Fundamental problem is that the whole of the Middle East has been destabilized, probably by an initiative led by Israel and followed by America, for all the reasons we've discussed in your show before. And they're in a quagmire now. And maybe we'll talk about the problems facing the allies, if you want to use an old World War II phrase.
Yes.
But whether Netanyahu's alive or not is only relevant if there's a change in political course. That's more
Yeah.
likely to come from Washington lighting the fuse and running away.
Let's get on to some rumor that has much more chance of being true than Netanyahu being dead. This is Carney, who is the leader of something called Quds, which is, of course, the Iranian secret state police. Now, there are rumors are going around, very, very strong rumors, that, of course, he has been arrested and is that they will, of course, execute him for the simple fact that they are starting to put two and two together. Now, there are unconfirmed reports, but they are, shall we say, from good sources who claim very simply that this guy was passing information to Israel on 5 of the occasions when people have died, including the Ayatollah. He has been seen leaving the building just before these strikes happened, literally about 10 minutes before these strikes happened, on at least 5 occasions. And of course, they were tracking his phone signals, and apparently the Russians and the Chinese gave a helping hand here. And it does, on the face of normal reports, seem as though he was passing secrets or whereabouts of where people were. This is why Israel and America's idea of where to kill people sort of came from. On every single one of these strikes, he has been placed not only at that building, but of course, on 5 or 6 occasions, he has been shown to walk away within 10 minutes of that building being, and 10 minutes after that building being hit. Now, that's either extraordinarily fortuitous, Lembit, or there's something to this. And of course, they have been tracking people inside Iran who have been giving away sort of state secrets. So if this is true, they're going to execute him without any shadow of a doubt. Oh, we've lost.
I'd imagine so. No, I'm here.
Oh.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I imagine so. I'll leave it to the people who've got the data. I do say with some amusement that the FBI have investigated me at least twice. I've been told this because they had to tell me afterwards. I still don't really know why. I'm very fond of America, actually. My father was a nuclear physicist and he worked in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. For those who know nuclear weapons development history, there was a nuclear facility there which produced an awful lot of the enriched uranium, the same kind of stuff that the United States and others are terrified Iran's trying to create. Or distill, if you like, to weapons grade material. So my father was a nuclear physicist in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I go there quite often. I'm very fond of America. I think that it's easy to damn America, but really the World War II would have been lost had it not been for them. And then they spent a huge amount of money rebuilding Europe, partly out of self-interest, but there was a degree of altruism in it too. So I don't really mind too much if they're spying on me. And there's somebody I speak to, and there's often an echo on the call, and I presume that means it's been listened to as well. So I don't really have an issue, and I'm sure I've been investigated by others as well. I once detained for quite a long time when I was going into Moscow, for like 4 hours. And I had no idea why they were doing that either. I think it was just before the Ukraine conflict kicked off. So maybe they thought I was far more informed than I was. I was there for a completely different reason. So I assume pretty much that everything we do is being spied on. Probably even this show will cause some ticker to go off and some red light to flash and some
Yes.
basement spy center somewhere. So I would say Iran's probably pretty good at this too, and they'll know. And there is something quite obviously involving intelligence here, because they knew where to get the Ayatollah Khamenei, and he clearly is dead. There's no doubt
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. And of course, there's at least on 5 or 6 other occasions that he's been seen to be leaving buildings sort of 5 or 10.
Yeah.
Now, you're either the luckiest guy in the world or you're in on it. One other lie that we need or one other rumor that we need to knock on the head. Trump has turned around and said that Iran are calling for a peace deal. Nothing could be further from the truth. Iran are absolutely not. And in fact, our source has turned around and said that they have had no contact whatsoever with America. They are not intending to have any contact either. So hopefully that clears that nonsense up, because they keep saying, oh, they're calling. Something that absolutely is true. The 31st Marine Division has been spotted in a ship, the USS, trying to remember the name of it. I think it's the Arizona. Might be another name of the ship. I do apologise. It is certainly named after a place in
Warren.
America. Sorry?
USS Tripoli.
Tripoli, that's it. Thank you very much. I knew it was named after a place. So the USS Tripoli, 24 hours ago, we know was off the coast of Luzon in the Philippines. And on that were 2,500 soldiers. Everybody's saying there's 5,000. There are actually 2,500 plus the ones that are already there. So remember that they've got people in Turkmenistan. They've also got people in the Zangezur corridor ready to go. Now, the rumor is, of course, that they're going to try and attack Karg Island, which is, as you know, and we've shown you, is a tiny little island just off of the coast of Iran. This would be an extremely stupid idea. And of course, they have bombed it. And we'll show you a little something on Karg Island now. They have bombed it, of course, and they said, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and everything else. Here's Karg Island. And this is the satellite picture of the bombing of Karg Island that you're seeing now. Now, they're saying they haven't bombed the oil terminals. They've just bombed the air defenses. They also say they've taken out 1 or 2 ships. And of course, they have not done that. The ship that they showed on their shall we say, on their video is still pottering around the straits. And of course, the Straits of Hormuz and the tankers and everything else, they are desperately trying to get people to come, shall we say, and do all sorts of crazy things by getting various countries, Lembit. The Straits of Hormuz still remain closed, and American tankers are still being hit, and anything that tries to move through there is being hit hard. It is, of course, completely and utterly shut off. There was another US oil tanker that... This is now the 15th tanker that's gone up. We have a problem, Lembit, because nobody, absolutely nobody in Europe wants to sail anything through the Straits of Hormuz on behalf of the United States, Lembit.
Well, I'm hardly surprised. The difficulty we've got here, and I've said this many times, I find Donald Trump slightly curious because I don't think he's a stupid man. But the difficulty here is the hubris. I, as you know, have many Iranian friends. I've worked with Iranians. I suspect that one reason that I get spied on in Britain, and I do think I get spied on in Britain, is because of those Iranian contacts. And there we go. That's just the way it is. I know people from all over the world. I have huge respect for China in many ways as well.
What did you make, Lembit, of the fact that the Iranians very cheekily turned around and said, you can pay in yuan if you like, And of course, we'll give that money then to Iran to rebuild everything that they've bombed. Nobody seems to be taking up on that.
Well, the thing about it is, well, there's two parts. Just on that one, there are other empires which are on the rise, while the Western hegemony is on the decline. And so it's completely consistent with that. China owns Africa now. They basically own it. And it's a patient, long-term ambition, which was described to me in great detail when I was the deputy chair of the all-party China group in Parliament. They said, this is what we're planning to do. We have a territorial claim on Taiwan for historical reasons, but nowhere else. And they more or less said, we will take over they didn't put it this overtly, but this is what they meant. We'll take over the world by economic investment, by just building and building and building. And they've either built or expanded 100 airports in the length of time we've been machinating over whether to have a third runway at Heathrow. They've built 100 airports, so expanded them. This is the thing. So that none of that surprises me. In terms of the other part of this, what does surprise me is that Donald Trump seems to have really got himself deep here without understanding the fact, which is now becoming obvious even to the war sympathetic mainstream media, that all Iran has to do to win is not lose.
Yes, yeah, and of course, there's Carg Island, which just goes to show how unbelievably stupid it would be if they tried to sail an invasion force, I should say, up, obviously, through the Straits. You've got to do that first of all, then to go and land on this island. This is very much a sort of really, really stupid idea from Trump, and I've got to say it's got all. How can I put this? It has got to be one of the most idiotically stupid ideas. And if you didn't know, only one of Iran's 5 operational oil export terminals is located on Carg Island, so it's only one of 5. Not this massive producing thing that everybody keeps saying it is. Now, Kepler, the amount of oil loaded from the tanks and installed on Carg increased by 1.5 times the past month. That means that Iran was quickly emptying Carg's tanks and was prepared for this attack. They'd already got ready for this.
They spent 40 years getting ready for it. 40 years. And they've done every scenario. All they've done is say, okay, this is plan C, subsection 2, or D, part 1. One other interesting point. I'm sorry I talked over you. I just don't want to lose this thought. Going to Carg Island may look like a victory in the short term, a physical invasion of a bit of land that Donald Trump thinks he can secure because it's an island. But I suspect it would all if they do try this, it will go down in the same annal of history that includes Gallipoli, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Custer's Last Stand. It's not a gig you'd really want to take on if you're a Marine, because it's just, even the geography of it, it's really hard to believe that the Iranians, the crafty Iranians, won't find a couple of jet skis and some RPGs to cause a little bit of trouble for those ships.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got the fast boats all around there, and they haven't managed to hit any of them. Eric Jones was first, then Nillis.
Yeah, it's more like the annals of history, I believe. We'll go with that, Lembit. I think Mr. Trump is as safe as he ever will be right now from assassination, because let's face it, J.D. Vance doesn't want to go in there, so they're going to want to keep him alive and well right now.
Yeah.
So he's probably as safe as he's ever been from any kind of problem. So.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And there's a lot that is going on that, of course, many people are not talking about. And of course, Trump is going to be kept exactly where he is. Nillis.
Yeah, the Bear Pigs comes to mind as well. But
yeah.
But what I was going to say, the more America interferes with Iran's oil businesses, the higher the price of oil will go anyway. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, a friend of mine, an American friend of mine, contacted me today, and he said it was $2.30 at one point, and now it's gone up to $3.87. And of course, Trump is promising that it's going to come down, that the war is over, and everything else, and nobody is buying it for a second, for the simple fact it's a map of Tel Aviv. There we go. If the war is over and they've got complete air superiority, can you tell me why Tel Aviv is getting absolutely smashed? And it is getting absolutely pummeled. Let's have a little look at some of the videos and everything that we're getting coming out of Tel Aviv now. Have a look at this. That's one. And of course, that doesn't show anything great, but there's lots of other places that are being hit. We're going to get on to some of the worst ones very shortly. Here's Tel Aviv again. And of course, as I say, we're just going to flick through some of these videos for you so you can see exactly what's happening in Tel Aviv. This is, of course, the area that we are told had Netanyahu's brother in. That, of course, is Galalite, and that is one of Netanyahu's residents, just so you do know. And of course, we'll get through. This is Tel Aviv tonight. Now, these are cluster munitions coming down. They are like mini hand grenades, basically. It's a bit like letting off 200 hand grenades in one go. We're going to have a little bit more for you. And of course, it's frightening the locals, shall we say. There is a couple more, and then we'll get to Lembit. Here we go. That is what happens when one of these cluster mines comes down. So that lands in the middle of the road or lands wherever. It is very, very random, and of course they're very, very dangerous. But then Israelis did drop white phosphorus on those areas, and we're going to show some other areas in a bit. But just have a look at this building here on the left that you can see. I'm just circling.
Where is this? Where is this?
Tel Aviv. This is all Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Have a look. And that's a cluster, one of those little cluster bombs going off. Now, it doesn't seem very much, but if you get hit by one of those, but Tel Aviv is getting hit all the time. They cannot stop them. Iran have tonight launched the biggest attack that they've ever launched. And of course, they've hit many, should we say, places that America don't want them to hit. And they're getting very, very annoyed about that. And we're going to get on to some of that in a minute. But as you can see, Tel Aviv is lighting up. Everywhere is getting pounded. And of course, many of these cluster munitions are causing, should we say, quite substantial damage. And this is pictures of Tel Aviv tonight. Have a little look. So there are various areas that have been smashed. And they really are. Tel Aviv is taking an awful pounding, as is Tehran. I mean, Tehran's getting absolutely obliterated. But the Iranians are still able to cause extensive damage. Lee Williams.
I was just going to add, is it not going to be long before they take the electricity out of that area as well, apparently?
Well, they've been trying not to. So let's put it that way. They've been trying not to for the simple fact that if they do hit it, and this is where I'm going to go back to Carg Island for a second, Lembit, because if they then do go and destroy the terminal on Carg Island, Iran have said that they will hit the other terminals and in the countries bordering the Persian Gulf. So here's the list. You've got Saudi Arabia, which is Ras Tanura, which is the largest marine oil loading center in the world. That's 6 million barrels a day. Then you've got Ras Al Jumeirah, which does 3 to 3.6 a day. United Arab Emirates, which has got Fujairah, which has multiple docks and is the largest fueling center in the world, one of the largest fueling centers in the region. And it's the site for crude oil and petrochemicals. And of course, they've been hitting the US base there. Qatar have Ras Laffan, which is the largest LNG export facility in the world. Kuwait have got Mina Al Ahmadi, which is the central crude export terminal, and Bahrain with their Sitra terminal sites, which do exports. Now, there were 15 explosions on the island. However, 1 hour after the attack, there was the air defense activity on the island, which straight up debunks the claims that all their air defenses are destroyed there, Lembit.
Yes, I go back to what we said before. Iran's been expecting this. Everybody knows that it's an asymmetric war. The Americans and Israelis are very well armed. They're working together. They've got clear military superiority. But Iran has been waiting and planning. Iran is an enormous country. They've got holes in the ground. And not every single person in Iran hates the regime. This is the thing. It's worth remembering that the regime only came into life because of public disquiet and dissatisfaction with the Shah of Iran. This is the point. It's basically, this is the problem. So what we end up with is a kind of that hubris phenomenon again, where America thought they could smash Iran, but they thought that in Vietnam too. Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was the main route of military supply, and Chu Chi tunnels, which were underground, vast underground complex, big enough for, I think, vehicles to go through. They were never defeated. But the other problem was the hearts and minds. And there will be people in Iran who are saying, no, we're not having this. And maybe neutrals might be more sympathetic to the regime. This is the point. The assumption, which Donald Trump made quite clear, that the Iranians should rise up and the West will send help. That was a risky assumption, and so far it hasn't proved. At the very least, it hasn't proved an overwhelming desire by the public to overthrow the regime.
Yeah, absolutely that. And I'm just going to show you this because if America had this overwhelming, shall we say, air superiority, can you tell me why a drone, an Iraqi drone, can fly around a US airbase in Baghdad without being taken out and cheerfully, very carefully, slowly select its target that it's going to hit? Have a look at this. Now that's on a US airbase right next to Baghdad Airport, Lembit.
Well, were they actually aiming to break? What did they actually hit?
Apparently, that was one of the centers for comms that they were hitting there.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm going to show you something else. Now, this you can hear people screaming in the background. There is no doubt that that America have taken losses and that people, shall we say, are dead. No question that this has happened. Not only have they hit the US embassy in Baghdad, but they've also, as I say, hit the base in Baghdad. Have a listen to this.
والله العظيم قاموا يبكون بكي.
انا جزك اياها
بس دير بالك صراحه بس دير بالك
بس لا تقع جوا بالمي.
دير بالكم شباب يا ولد. شنو غير بالقاعده غير قاموا يصرخون اسمع الصريخ مالهم.
قبت هذا مراسل الجزيرة مراسل العربية كلها صاعدة هي كلها صاعدة هنا
And there are all the people running either to or away from the base. Lembit, there's no question. We know that American soldiers are dead in that strike.
Iran?
It is in Iraq.
No, but by Iran.
Oh, no, by Iraqis.
No. Okay, so who did the strike?
Iraq.
Okay, Iraqis. Okay.
Iraqi forces, yeah.
So they're beginning to become emboldened in exactly the opposite way that the Americans were hoping.
Yes, and as you're talking, we're just going to be playing the fire that is still raging there.
So this is an American base.
It is a US base on the edge of Baghdad Airport. Well,
this is what I've been expecting, that in the asymmetric warfare environment we would have been discussing, that you'll get individuals and people on motorbikes chucking stuff over walls, an RPG, hide that in the back of a pickup truck, and do things nearby these places. You cannot possibly put a security cordon across the whole of the Middle East. And the other thing is this low budget drone warfare phenomenon, where Iran supposedly can actually produce more drones than it can use, or than it needs. It hasn't really been deteriorated in terms of the total loss system they're using, but they inundate the system with Patriots at $3 million a pop, taking out $7,000 drones. And eventually you run out because
you do.
The Patriots are complicated, and these drones are the kind of thing I could probably build in my shed.
Yeah, absolutely that. And just before we let anybody in, we're just going to say that we are absolutely certain that these people are, should we say, not only getting pummeled, but this is the Baghdad, the US Embassy in Baghdad, which of course had a comms center on top of it, and has been smashed by another Iraqi drone. So it's not just the air bases, but the actual US Embassy itself is getting pummeled, Blembit. And of course, they're just going to keep taking it down. We're looking at pictures here of the literally the radar that was perched on top of the embassy that has been attacked, that has been taken down, and is no longer functional. This would obviously get rid of the lie that America have complete control of the skies. They obviously don't.
We can't. How can you have? I was in Hamley's, the toy shop in Regent Street recently. A rare treat for Angelina and Maria, my kids. And when we went in, there was this guy with a little drone, probably about this big, and it was just buzzing around. I don't know how much it cost, maybe £100. I don't know. Well, if you make it 10 times bigger or 5 times bigger, you could probably put 200 grams of explosives on it and do the damage you've just shown there. I'm not no expert in ordnance, but how can you possibly stop something the size of a laptop with a Patriot? It's just not going to happen. And if you put 100 of these things in the sky at once, some of them will get through. Obviously, that's the objective. I have to say, though, Warren, I'm really impressed that the defense systems are so sophisticated that they do stop most things. 90% plus, I'm guessing, on both sides. That's incredible. It's just orders of magnitude better than anything I thought could be achieved. But it's incredibly expensive to do on that $3 million to $7,000 calculation. If Iran loses $1 million worth of drones, which would probably be, let's round it up, let's say they're $10,000 each, so nowhere near it. That would be 100 drones. Well, the Patriots you have to stick in the air to stop that would be 100 times 300 million. It's like 300 to 1 or more in terms of cost. And eventually, I've said this for years, maybe decades, that future wars will not be fought on the basis of human attrition. It'll be fought on the basis of economic attrition. I actually think we're there now. I think that despite the absolutely unforgivable killing of 170 or so children in a small little dirt poor outpost of, I assume not very wealthy village somewhere in Iran.
Yeah.
On the whole, the death toll is comparatively low compared to the Blitz, for example, or of Vietnam. So I actually think we're already in a situation
Give
where
it time.
well, individual deaths, well, okay, I hope you're wrong, but individual deaths are outweighed by the economic damage. Now, the exception to that, of course, is Ukraine. In Ukraine, the Ukrainian side is just creating a slaughterhouse of its own people. So they're still in First World War trench warfare. But this sophisticated operation seems to be different.
Yeah. We've got Nillis and Eric Jones.
Yeah, what I was wondering about, you know, that satellite, sorry, the drone footage you showed us.
Yes.
Would that have to be relayed back via satellite? The actual picture?
Yeah, if they've got a camera on it, yeah, absolutely.
And so they must be using either Russian or Chinese satellites then.
Yes. Yeah, the Chinese are still giving. The Chinese are still mapping absolutely everything for them. This is why they were able to find this is why they're able to hit things with such good targeting. And we've got some more videos of that coming up. Eric Jones.
Yeah, Lambert. In the first, some previous shows, Warren showed where they had 200 underground drone factories, Iran. So they're pumping these things out like no tomorrow. So if you can imagine what a land invasion is going to look like for those poor bastards when they unleash those drones, I mean, it's going to be mass bedlam.
Yeah. Do you know what I regret? What I really regret is I love aviation. I would two things make me sad. When I see perfectly serviceable aircraft, classic aircraft often, being destroyed, just as an aficionado, I grieve for the damage. Now, that doesn't diminish the human toll. But the second thing is, I live near a site for Remote Radio Control Modelers Association. Those things would be magnificent in peacetime just to fly around. And it's in a way, I just hope when this is all over, there'll be a leap forward in the kind of things you can buy for innocent pursuit. So it's tragic in a way that things that I've always regarded as wonderful toys are now being used as instruments of death.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And of course, what we're showing you at the moment, of course, is some of these places, these oil refineries like Fujairah, that are actually being smashed to pieces still. And of course, we've got the Lausanne refinery in Iraq. Have a look at this. There's a lot of damage because, of course, the Americans have placed a lot of their forces and their, shall we say, secret people, CIA and operatives inside Iraq. So this is why they're getting absolutely massacred at the moment. They're being, of course, whoever is helping them, and we know who is helping them, they are able to target these places. They're able to hit it, no problem whatsoever. Negev Air Base has also been hit. Let's have a look at this. Now, this is very much a forward operating base for the Israelis. And of course, they are not able or don't seem to be able to do anything about it. And here's northern Israel being lit up. As you can see, there's plenty of fires going on in northern Israel. And of course, Dubai's pretty much open season because they've got almost no air defense whatsoever. People will turn around and go, that's not true. And literally, you'll be told that this is not so. It's not happening. This is Dubai today.
اهو للبالاتسو كنت vicino a me البتاع اللي جنبي اهو ضرب فيا اهو
So that's Dubai today, Lemmy. They all are literally out of air defense missiles.
They run out as predicted then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one. Okay, there's an interesting point here. Iran's apologized to its neighbors for doing this. It says it hasn't been aiming to hit residential areas. What's your take on that?
Well, my take on this is very simply, you've got American air bases there, and they have said, we will not launch against anyone whatsoever as long as they are not launching American sorties from their bases in their country. So in other words, if you stop America launching sorties from Iran or Bahrain or UAE into our country, then we will stop attacking you. And there's a couple of countries that have done that, but UAE and various others have not taken a blind bit of notice because, of course, the Americans are pretty much in charge there.
Okay. So that is actually fairly intelligent from the Iranian point of view.
Yep.
Because they're saying this is going to hurt, but unless you stop hurting us.
Yeah,
Very difficult though, because I can't see how the UAE or its mates in the area can resist America. It's very difficult because I've been to the United Arab Emirates many times, Dubai. It's not my favorite place, but
No.
it's I've regarded it as totally safe. A girl in her teens or 20s can walk through the middle of Dubai center at 3 a.m. and she will not be touched. She'll be totally safe. And there's not much alcohol readily available. You can drink. It's not illegal, but it's not easy and it's expensive. And they have produced a society which is in many ways really agreeable. And it doesn't seem to massively persecute. Obviously, there are some tales of behavior towards women, sometimes working girls, who end up in a bad place. But by and large, it's a place I've never been afraid to walk around day or night. And it's very service orientated. There are hundreds of thousands of refugees, i.e. wealthy Brits who have moved there. The expat community is enormous. And they're there because you can get rich, you don't get taxed to pieces, and it's a land of opportunity. One of the best airports to go through anywhere in the world, in my view, is Dubai. They've got 2 airports now. So there are all these positive things, but they do depend on a good relationship with America. But then they're also a place that have a good relationship with Russia. UAE just seems to be a place that doesn't need an army because it really hasn't got any enemies. And unfortunately, they've ended up as collateral damage because Iran in extremis is more or less saying it's nothing personal, but we really got to twist your tail here because this is I will almost never use this word because it's so obvious, but this is an existential crisis for Iran. And that's why the situation is so intense. And the same goes for some of the other neighbors. I mean, Qatar is going, what have we done to deserve this? This is not us. Hey, listen, Tehran, get off our tail. And they're saying, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Just stop cooperating. And I bet you privately, the people in Qatar and Dubai and Abu Dhabi are saying, we've got to do something about this. We've got to do something about this. And privately are saying, can't you just get the Americans to lay off? Let's get a truce of some sort. And then Iran's saying, don't play that game with us. Let's just have it all out now because we don't want to be attacked again. And frankly, we have to give the Americans such a bloody nose, which is really just by failing to fall over. The Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman fight. Was that the Rumble in the Jungle? And where he stood.
Punch yourself out.
Yeah, he basically punched. He said to Foreman, "Is that all you got, George? Is that all you got?" And they both fainted at the end, apparently, or very close to it. But George was burnt out. He was exhausted. He'd done everything he could. All Ali really did was survive. Yeah. And he became the hero. Now, I think that's what's happening here. And Iran is more or less saying that. They're saying, look, you're going to carry on hitting us all you can, but we're fairly low tech as a country. High tech, first world Tehran, you go out into the sticks and things are very different. So I actually think that hitting their neighbors, the neighbors kind of understand it. They're mature people. They understand what's going on. And they never asked for this war.
It's an odd thing that you say that, Len, because the George Foreman, Muhammad Ali thing was exactly the same thing I used. And I said, Iran are doing a rope-a-dope here. Lee Williams.
That was a thriller in Manila, by the way.
Yeah.
I'll just say the fact of it's not of the people of the West. This is to do with the corporations. Is there anybody in the Middle East that actually understands it's not the actual people, it's the actual corporations that shouldn't be trusted?
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
They know that the people don't really want it.
Yeah.
That we're not really up for it, and something that they're not up for, and they're going to have to be up for, because we're going to break a story now. Those are the 6 dead that were in the refueling tanker, and of course the nonsense that's coming out that's saying the refueling tankers that hit. I can now absolutely 100% confirm that the actual missile that took it down, of course, was the one that we have been banging on about, and of course, there is no way that they hit. The F-15s have been dropping out the sky. There's a couple more that have crashed, and everybody would like you to say that it's friendly fire. It certainly isn't. They're certainly taking these out. There's no question that they're hitting these, and many people are saying, "Oh, can't be." There is going to be more dead. This is the United States Air Force. They are being evacuated from Jordan, and they're being evacuated to Germany. And as far as we know, there are at least another 9 American soldiers that are in all sorts of trouble on the air base in Jordan. So just to give you a highlight, give you a heads up that is coming. And this is the literally the 395, which is the missile that took down the tanker. And as you can see, they've got a lot of them. Sean Murphy.
Well, Warren, looking at that picture, even the launch ramp looks cheap.
Yeah.
Aluminium.
Yeah. Cheap as chips, but it'll do the job. You know,
it does the job.
If it does the job, it's there we go. Vic George says here, tourists are freaking out and leaving ASAP out of Dubai. Lee Williams.
Any B-52s approached yet, or are they kind of thinking?
We're going to get into that.
Yes, exactly.
We're going to get into that.
Can I just ask you? I'm challenging you because I don't know the answer. You will say it's 100% sure. Not one of the reports that I've seen in the mainstream and the alternative media that I've been able to see has made that claim.
No.
Why are you so sure that you're right and they're wrong? Because I made the assumption that the actual crash was caused by a mid-air collision between 2 KC-135s. One was supplying the other.
Simply not the case. First of all, we were able to obtain a photograph of that, which we have put up. We had a couple of experts look at it. We've also got an intelligence source that turned around and said we can't turn around and say that, of course, the 2 KC-135s were not in mid-air collision whatsoever. The one literally fell out of the sky, and of course they turned around and said all members had been rescued. Then they said 4 had been rescued. 4 had died, and then finally it was all 6 that had died. But what we're hearing from people who are very, very close to the action there, that this was indeed one shot down, and in fact there is a standing order gone out in the United States military that says that they must. If they are going to literally do that, where 2 of them get together, they have to be a long way from home. And this is one of the reasons why quite a few of them have located to elsewhere. And of course, the Abraham Lincoln and the Gerald Ford have now steamed out of rocket range. So, of course, these 395s can't actually take them out. So they've actually steamed away. They've both steamed away from the area to put some more distance between themselves. But we have 2 sources. One is an aircraft source who's seen many of these damaged planes. In fact, he's an investigator into this sort of thing, and he turned around and he said there is no way that's collision damage. If the actual, trying to think of the vertical plane at the top is the thing that's been broken off, and they managed to make it. Yeah, that managed to make an emergency landing at Ben Gurion Airport. But he turned around and said there is no way on earth. He said if one had collided into the other, he said both would fall out of the sky. He said that the chances of that happening, he said, are 1 in a million of two planes colliding and one of them still being able to make it back.
There are some cases of that, but they are very rare. It seems
very
to me,
rare.
Based on what you're saying, I'm as you know, I've been keen aviator and
You are,
by aviation since I was 5. So I've got to have a pilot's license and everything else, fully qualified pilot. And it seemed to me improbable at the time, because essentially that would have required the other 707, that was KC-135, same aircraft really, which is huge. Like it's bigger than an A320, bigger than the kind of thing you go to Torremolinos in. It would be being required for it to be 150 feet too far forward, like 50 to 80 meters too far forward, because it would have had to bash the back of its fin somehow into the into the other KC-135. And I don't understand how that would have even caused the first one to crash, because in terms of momentum, the fin is more brittle than the tailplane, than the rear bit of the aircraft, known as a fuselage. That sort of sausage thing that you're in, that's pretty strong. The fin's not so strong. So if the fin's broken off, but they could land, you'd think it might have been a bit scrapey. It might have even had a depressurization, but you could probably land, because most of the important stuff isn't there, unless, of course, it messed up the tailplane. That's the first thing. The other thing is, as you probably know, I'm not sure if you are aware of this.
Shrapnel, Lembic. He said it was shrapnel.
Well, that's what I would have said. The other thing is more like if one of them has been struck, you've suddenly got bits of metal flying back, and one of the bits of metal could have just taken that off on the way back.
Yeah, the vertical
that would have been much more likely.
Yeah, vertical stabilizer. And he turned around and he said that is not consistent with a collision. He said if you've got a collision, he turned around and he said 99% of the time. He said, and I've done thousands of these, because he's the guy who keeps an eye in the sky for us, and he's actually a crash investigator. And he said he looked at it straight away and went, "That's nonsense." And then we got a confirmed report from our American source as well that confirmed exactly what he has said, that there was no mid-air collision at all.
Okay, one other thing, incidentally, Iran. I don't know if you know this. You probably do. If not, this is big news. Five of these tankers have apparently been damaged in, is it the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia? Did you know that? 5 of them. Now that's tens of millions, hundreds of millions of pounds worth of damage potentially.
It is. And they're trying to say that only a few of them have been damaged, but we know for a fact that at least 4 will need repair and the other 3 have suffered minor damage. So there was 7 in there in all. And as I say, they've not all been knocked out, but they will need repair. They're not going to be able to fly. So that would tell you something. It certainly would tell you something.
It's interesting. Because that's serious damage. I always grieve. These aircraft are based on Boeing 707s. Boeing 707 really introduced the jet age for many people, and they're probably pretty old bodies. The aircraft. I'm sad about it, the way that when Russia bashed up the AN-225 Antonov, the biggest aircraft ever built, I just felt sad. That and Spruce Goose, which is Howard Hughes' thing. So I'm sad about it from just a nostalgic point of view, basically.
Yeah.
But
can I ask you?
Yeah.
I need to ask you a question, then. If
go on.
You have a neighbour, and of course your brother comes round and he says, "I want to get all the ammo from the top of your loft, and I want to load it here. Then I'm going to march down the road and I'm going to shoot the neighbour through the head." And he then starts to load all sorts of weapons and grenades and everything else. Would you consider yourself an accessory after the fact?
Yeah, but I might let him do it if I thought he was going to wipe me out.
So
Why do you
here's,
ask?
so here's the reason why. So here are, and we said this, Fairford. They are loading B-1 and B-52 bombers. They've been doing this quite often. There are many of these have stopped over for refueling. We've had B-52s, B-1 bombers. These are all, by the way, at Lakenheath, pictures taken by a friend, of course, who is massively into his aviation. He keeps an eye on everything that goes in and out of Fairford and Lakenheath, as you can see there, B1s coming in, of course, and the call signs and absolutely everything. I mean, he mapped everything for us. He's absolutely fantastic. And he has turned around and said that we've been doing this for literally for months and months and months. Here's the base location, Hill Air Force Base, Utah. Lightnings primarily used on F-35s. These are all now coming. The 419 Air Force Reserve Fighter Wing have all come in and landed at Lakenheath. We are being constantly told that we're not part of this war. Let's have a little look at this. And of course, here's Fairford refueling bombers. They, of course, have to keep very close eyes on their transponders. But this, have a look at this. So all sorts of refueling, loads of planes coming across, and there's loads that are getting ready now, and they're transferring to Ramstein Air Force Base, and then they're going to fly on to Akrotiri, and then they're going to fly on to missions inside Iran. It certainly looks, from everything that Graham, our guy, and he's brilliant at keeping track of all these things, that they're getting ready to really paste Iran rather badly, Lembit.
Yeah, let me tell you an interesting statistic, which I actually put out on tweet. Please follow me on @Lembitopic if you haven't already. And here's an interesting statistic for you. Each Keir Starmer approved bombing raid against Iran from the United Kingdom, say from RAF Fairford or Lakenheath, each return trip by a single Boeing B-52, the 8-engined Stratofortress, a marvelous aircraft, likely to be in service for an entire 100 years. That's really unheard of. Each single bombing raid uses enough fuel to power an average family a car for 275 years.
Wow.
Don't tell me that this government is in any way serious about net zero, because apparently, well, they'll preach at you for dropping your kids to school. They'll praise you for dropping your bombs on Iran. And it doesn't matter. Another little statistic, HMS Dragon, the faulty ship that was being fixed in Portsmouth, will use 530,000 gallons on a one-way trip to the Gulf, to the Persian Gulf, which is enough fuel, a one-way trip, enough fuel to power one family car for 3,700 years, or 300 family cars for their entire lifetime. And so what we're seeing is the complete abandonment of other pseudo priorities by the Labour government. But the worst thing of all, and those to me absolutely make toast of their environmental credibility. But the worst thing of all is Starmer doesn't know what he's doing. He said no, no, no. Then he said yes, yes, yes. And according to you, he's saying yes all along.
Yes, he was. Yeah, absolutely no question whatsoever. We're going to have a couple of bits of this now. Trump is being mocked by Iran. He has claimed he's defeated us 9 times in the last 2 weeks. Absolutely hilarious. And then why is he trying to call us to make some sort of peace deal? The Eric Jones, Warren, what are the chances the old B-52s are blown out of the sky because of antiquated technology? Well, Lembit would be the man to answer that one. Lembit.
They won't be. The B-52 actually came from a specification. Originally, I got to limit myself here because I know a lot about this. Originally initiated in the 1940s, and they messed with the design, and I think it first flew in 1952. I could be wrong about that, but it'll be something like that. Then what they did was, and it was a stupendous, it first flew on April the 15th, 1952. I've just checked that. But the specification originally was laid down in the 1940s, and they had a lot of problems with it. The original design was quite different to the one that they finally made, but it was an absolutely remarkable design, and it was over-engineered. It was over-engineered because they didn't quite know the environment, the height the thing would fly at, and it had to be a big, big thing. It's known as buff, which the polite interpretation of is big, ugly, fat fella, but that's not really what it stands for. So,
Fantastic.
so this thing was designed, and it flew in 1952, and it has been the mainstay of America's nuclear deterrence pretty much ever since. And it has evolved with time. It's been re-engined. It's been upgraded. It's got all kinds of countermeasures. And in a conventional war, these things are phenomenal. They pummeled Iraq to pieces at least twice. And, well, twice in the two wars, in the early 90s and then the early noughties. And one last thing. They're so good that the anticipation and the desire is to keep them in the air at least till 2052, which is 26 years away. That'll mean that from the first flight to then, they'll have flown for a century. There is no other military aircraft that comes anywhere close.
That does that. No, not even close. Lee Williams.
A quick question. Apparently, it does around about 1,000 miles an hour in miles per hour up in the air. Secondly, would a drone take one of these out, or would even Iran know when they're actually delivering them to Iran? Because they've obviously got to go into Iran to actually drop these missiles. So would that any
highly unlikely?
On the first one, I will limit myself because I love the subject. On the first one, they were being shot at during the Vietnam War by the competent North Koreans. They got some pretty good anti-aircraft rockets. Some of them were taken down. Some of them survived with damage. They turned out to be pretty robust, actually. On the second point, the way they're being used is a standoff aircraft. They get close to Iran, and then they use various types of cruise missiles. So they don't tend to fly over Iraq. They do it from a distance because they are big lumbering aircraft. And yes, Iran would have the capability, I would say even now, to take them down. So you get close, but you don't fly over.
There we go. Mark Onser, then Nillis.
Oh, sorry, one last thing. Also, they don't fly, they're not supersonic. Their cruising speed, I could be wrong, it's about 580 miles per hour.
There we go. Thank you very much for that, Lembic. Now we all know. Now we're all educated. Mark Onser.
I'm probably boring people, but I just happen to like the subject.
That's okay. Mark Onser.
Yeah, Warren, I just wonder if we can encourage European leaders and what have you, if they can we make friends with Russia again? Because it's costing me a bloody fortune to fill my van up. £1.70 a litre.
There are some people already saying that we should do that. There are loads of people like Kaya Kallis who's getting very upset, and we'll get onto her in a second, that say not. And of course, there are people trying to do secret deals with the Iranians, which are the French and of course Italy. But while Macron's turning around and saying no deals with Russia whatsoever, he's the fourth highest purchaser of liquid natural gas from Russia. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, it seems like there is.
Go on.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like the Iranians are trying to target the refuelers, isn't it? And I think the B-52s have to be refueled in the air before they get to Iran, and also the aircraft from the aircraft carriers have to be refueled. And if they're not refueled, they have to bring the aircraft carriers closer to Iran, which makes them more of a target.
Isn't that naughty? Isn't it a shame? Let's have a little look at this.
How long should Americans expect for gas prices to be high? Are we talking weeks? Are we talking months? Or just don't know at this point?
Yeah, I think that this conflict will certainly come to the end in the next few weeks. Could be sooner than that, but the conflict will come to the end in the next few weeks. and we'll see a rebound in supplies and a pushing down of prices after that. But yes, we were very aware that we would have short-term disruption. We would cause a little bit of increased prices on Americans. Prices today are still far below what they were in the Biden administration, where they were begging, bartering, and bribing Iran to behave better. We had $5 gasoline in the middle of the Biden administration. We hope we don't get there this time.
That is, of course, Chris Wright, the Energy Secretary. He's the same clown who said that the American ships were already taking tankers through the Straits of Hormuz when they weren't. Lembit, I don't think anybody can trust him, can they?
Well, it's all propaganda, and you can't really take it seriously, because what have they got? They've essentially got themselves into a huge big mess because they committed the fundamental mistake in warfare, not having a clear objective. Now, the argument that you're hearing is that's so that they could claim victory whenever they need to pull out. But they've got real problems. Somebody, I think, I'm not sure who was asking, somebody in the chat was saying, could MiG-25s take B-52s out? They could, yeah. They're very energy hungry, and they're not really using them now. But they've got even better aircraft, MiG-29s, Mirages, Sukhois. I don't know how many they've got left. But America tended to underestimate the opposition, and that's been the problem here. And even if they took all those planes out, you can't take surface-to-air missiles out. And the point is, it's not limited just to Tirana airspace. If you're right about what you've said about the KC-135 being shot down,
yes,
those over Iraq.
Yep, we are 100% happy that one KC-135 and 3 F-15s so far have been shot down by Iran. And of course, they're all saying it's mid-air accident. 6 of these F-15s have not bbeen taken down. That is complete nonsense. Let's have a little look at this. And
the Lord says he thrust you suddenly, power. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let the prophetic be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked.
That's Trump's spiritual advisor in the White House, up to her old tricks again. I honestly look at this woman and I just think, what is this person even doing anywhere near a seat of government?
I've seen that done, in my view, plausibly at times. The difficulty is that Trump's entire agenda seems to be an act of faith. You don't run wars on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah.
And that's what literally is happening here.
It is quite staggering. And of course, we've got some stuff on Israel that we're going to show you. But before we do that, we're going to show you a video of what I call the food slaughter centers. This is where people go there for food and then get shot at. We're going to show they finally closed them all down. American mercenaries and Israelis who were herding Gazans. Now, I don't want you to forget this, because we tend to forget what happened in Gaza. Have a look at this. This is a 3-minute video on what Israel were doing and what the American paramilitary companies that are now currently in the Zangezur corridor were doing to the people who were only coming to get food because they were starving. Now that was good old Mercs, aka Blackwater, under a different name, but Blackwater Mercs and the Israeli military doing that, and with the full complicitness of the so-called Humanitarian Gaza Foundation, didn't they?
Yeah, it seems to me the evidence is overwhelming, admittedly circumstantial from where I'm sitting, but overwhelming that the slaughter continues. And a little bit like, I can't remember who said it, but I may have been Vic, I'm not sure who said it. It said a little bit like what's going on in Ukraine, where, to quote, I didn't see who said it, so apologies if I haven't attributed to him a minute or two ago, that Zelensky is having his backside kicked, and who cares? Well, in a way, the Gaza's horrendous situation continues, and people are too distracted by the Iranian thing to really notice.
Yeah. I do want to play one other thing before Nillis comes in, because I believe this to be probably the most bizarre, cruelest, and possibly the most, how can I put this? These people don't belong on this planet. I'm sorry, when you come out with this. Have a little look at this.
Let me finish my point. Go ahead. Okay? 69,000 people slaughtered
Then that's
in Gaza.
0.97 people per building.
I really don't want to yell, but you keep interrupting, and it makes it difficult for me to make my point when you're interrupting me. So please stop doing that. I don't want to yell. 10,000 people missing, trapped under the rubble, presumed dead for obvious reasons, okay? How are you going to sit here and talk about, like, but they dropped,
That's one person per building. Reducing human beings to mere numbers, it reminds me of a very chilling Stalin quote.
Yep, that's so true.
And you just cannot reduce this to one death per building like it's nothing. Every single one of those deaths represented a mom, a father, a daughter, a brother, someone's loved one. You can't just say, oh, it's one, it's not a big deal.
So there we are, Lembit. It's all right because it's only one per building. That's fine, isn't it? We raised 80,000 buildings, so we're allowed to kill one person per building.
There are 25 million households in the United Kingdom, roughly. So if you got one per household, that'd be 25 million people, which would be over a third of the population.
Yeah.
In London alone, let's say there are hundreds of thousands of buildings, individual buildings. Okay, so it'd be okay if one per building was wiped out by something. I mean, this is the crazy thing. It's just crazy thing.
It's just, I wanted to highlight that because of the way these people think. Just, you know, this is some Zionist influencer from, you know, bullshit TikToker, but gets paid $7,000, or rather doesn't get the money, but he's offered $7,000 to go online or to go on shows like this and regurgitate this utter garbage. Lembit.
Well, what bothers me about it is, imagine if one Israeli per building was killed, how they'd react to that.
Yeah,
one per
crazy,
building.
isn't it?
Well, they don't indulge in joined up thinking. That's the problem.
No, exactly that. Nillis.
Yeah, I know the Israelis are hiring white supremacist American motorbike gang people. They've hired over 1,000 of them, and they're all taking pot shots at the Palestinians. There was this ex-Green Beret who was a turned whistleblower. His name was Anthony Anguilla, and he said that you know, he saw terrible things, including the targeting.
Yeah, we played his video on here.
Yeah, that's right. It's for the targeting of children who are trying to get some food as well. And them laughing about it, these white supremacist Americans laughing who've been employed, they were having their time of their life and laughing about it.
Yeah. There may be some hope. Let's have a look at this.
Youth, a striking 54% today believe that Israel shouldn't exist. We have seen the most deranged behavior from Israelis. And I'm not just even talking soldiers. We've seen deranged behavior from soldiers, but we've seen deranged mothers on TikTok dressing up their children, you know, with black eyes and missing teeth, or making fun of parents losing babies. We've seen soldiers urinating on Palestinian captives, children attacked by dogs, sexual assault, rape. At a certain point, for those of us who are looking at Israeli society, this is looking psychotic. Are Israelis aware that public perception today of Israel is of a deeply depraved society? I mean, you can put all the Hasbro spin that you want on this. There is no putting lipstick on a pig.
There we go. Lembit, thoughts? It seems as though the youth are starting to wake up a bit to what they're doing.
I still believe that the majority of Israelis are decent people, in the same way that I think the majority of Brits are decent people. But if you were to look at our government, you would think Britain is heading towards being a broken state. That complete idiot, the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, said that NATO included Cyprus, that Cyprus was in NATO. He was the Foreign Secretary. He thought NATO included Cyprus.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. Just in case you don't know, Cyprus has never been in NATO. And so if you judge Britain by its government, we would have very low marks. And I wonder if Israel had a different administration, it would be a different country. But I understand the point she's making, because just decent people who aren't interested in politics see what's happening in Gaza and just feel it's wrong, because most people are decent. Most humans are decent. And they say this, they see this and they say, what is happening here? What's going on? Yeah,
true. Just to let you know, by the way, that these influencers that you're seeing everywhere, like this one, Mashish Alinejad, she gets 894,000 from the US Agency for Global Media, the State Department and National Endowment for Democracy, for spreading all sorts of nonsense on Facebook and everything else, making sure that she has all these people. So this is how they do it. Of course, as you can see, the face of stealthy freedom, Instagram, she's got 8 million followers. And of course, they bump up the numbers to make sure that, of course, you are doing this. And there are many, many other influencers that are paid by the National Endowment for Democracy, USAID, as you can see, these people here, of course. And this was an investigation done by Rybar, who were looking into how much all these social media influencers get paid. Somebody who does have a lot of influence over the media, but doesn't, shall we say, get money from anyone, of course, is John Mersheimer. Have a look at this.
You greatly underestimate, Piers, how deeply committed the Israelis are to ethnically cleansing both Gaza and the West Bank. The Israelis now have a situation where there are roughly as many Palestinians as there are Israeli Jews inside of Greater Israel. And this is an unacceptable situation for most Israelis. And they're completely committed to ethnically cleansing Gaza and then the West Bank. I think the evidence is overwhelming on this. Now, you say President Trump sees this as a great opportunity to prove that he's a statesman and he can bring peace to the Middle East. I think in principle that he'd love to do that. But I've written a book with Steve Walt on the Israel lobby, and there's absolutely no question in my mind that if President Trump gets rough with Prime Minister Netanyahu, Netanyahu will turn to the lobby, and the lobby will force Trump to back off. There's no way Trump is going to get tough with Netanyahu if he violates the ceasefire. Remember, he did that on March 18th. I think you...
There we go. John Mersheimer talking a lot of sense there, Lambert.
Well, it seems like it. Trump's in trouble because he's broken his promise to not involve American foreign wars.
Yeah.
And that's really risky for him. Unless this goes brilliantly, which requires a real dogleg turn in fortunes, his own core base seems to be becoming unhappy with this gambit, especially if you're losing servicemen and America gets bogged down. Somebody mentioned Bay of Pigs earlier on. There's a real risk. Bay of Pigs, for those who don't remember, was an absolutely disastrous attempt by John F. Kennedy to create a counter-revolution in Cuba, and it totally failed. Absolute disastrously failed. And a lot of Cuban resistance died as a result of America's disastrous intervention there. an attempt, and naive attempt under Kennedy, to think they could just turn over Cuba. Cuba's far more resilient. Now, that could happen here again. And I think that Trump's real problem is he hasn't really got a very obvious exit strategy. The best he can hope for is saying, right, we've won, we're stopping. Then he'll walk out of the Middle East. But then the Middle East will turn to Iran and say, sorry about that. Can we just talk a bit? And then when America says, hey, we're going to try again, they say, we're not doing it on our territory. We sorted things out. Thanks very much. And of course, China will be saying that, let us help you rebuild the mess. China's smart at that. And they'll find the money. And then Russia will say to Iran, let's help you here. Let's help you make sure that you're a bit more robust for the next time. And this is the problem. Iran is saying we don't want to negotiate because it's pointless, because he attacked us when we weren't negotiating.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We've got a few more stories before we go. Kaya has been at it again. She's very, very upset because she thinks that Ukraine are going to be forgotten in this war. And of course, therefore, the Russians are going to get deals done under the table with people for Russian oil. And that shouldn't be the case. We should stop fighting in Iran and all concentrate on Ukraine, Lembit.
Yeah, I saw her moaning about this. And once again, it's because she's not a professional politician, because she's an amateur. She looks really out of her depth. There's no gravitas in how she complained. And her one-trick pony obsession with Ukraine on the ludicrous concept, and I will be the first to admit if I'm wrong, if I'm shown wrong, but I won't be. Ludicrous concept that somehow Estonia and Latvia, Lithuania will be next, and then it'll be Poland, and then it'll be France, and then it'll come to Britain. It's just the problem is she's stuck on this script, and even though it's nonsense, and she can't get herself off that hamster wheel of nonsense. And people have forgotten Ukraine because it's not sexy, really. I don't think citizens are smart enough to realize this.
No, I don't think so either. Let's have a little look at this because these people like Barrett Rabbit and people like that have put scoop. Trump rejected Putin's offer to take the uranium to Russia. Now, these people are saying this is a scoop. We were turning around and saying that Russians had offered to do this in Alaska, Lembit, months ago. It's amazing that they're just suddenly catching up on this.
Well, it's because I think that the old elites are losing control. The Epstein thing is an absolute horror story for these people.
Oh, isn't it?
They've been, well, after we were off air, I'm interested to know what you know, but let's not do it on this show at the moment. But really,
we'll do it when we go off.
Yeah, but really, what I'm seeing and what I'm observing here is the deflation of those old elites. It's a little bit like a hot air balloon. I used to live in Bristol, and I used to have great hot air balloon shows, and I think it was Long Ashton Park. I can't remember what it's called now. And when they turned the burner off after a hot air balloon landed, it took some time for it to deflate, and that's what I think we're seeing.
Yeah,
the burners aren't strong enough to keep the thing going, and so they're just beginning to go.
It's not going to keep it alive. You're absolutely right.
And they can't. And so you got people like Alice wailing and moaning, but Ukraine has been lost since the start.
Yeah,
Iran only has to survive to win, and America has cost itself billions already in a short, sharp shock, which electrocuted Washington.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at this then. This is a meeting of clowns.
Northeast. How are you?
There we have Pahlavi, who's desperate to be the new leader of Iran, and Zelensky, who's desperate to stay the leader of Ukraine, meeting each other. What on earth for?
When was this?
This was the other day. They were going to have a meeting. I would imagine, and of course, he's trying to say that they're going to send some of these people to some of the Ukrainian drone operators to Iran. Well, they sent a plane load and they got blown up on the first day.
Well, this is completely incomprehensible. How can Zelensky be on Iran's side while still expecting a handout from the West?
not Iran.
I
sorry,
literally don't understand what I've just seen.
Yeah, no, he's on Pahlavi's side, who wants to overthrow Iran. So,
I see.
Yeah.
Of course, I recognize what you mean now. Sorry, I'd actually dismissed this ludicrous story when I first saw it. Sorry, I missed the part of that. Yeah. This idea that you've got this kind of like South Korean leader, sorry, not South Korean, South Vietnamese leader who will then take the West bidding. I understand what you mean. It just is a non-starter. They seem to have forgotten the point I made a couple of hours ago on the show, that the popular uprising that installed Ayatollah Khomeini was precisely because the Shah of Iran was not acceptable to the people of Iran. They had enough. They had
exactly
enough.
That. I think the only thing.
Yeah,
I think the only thing we have to worry about there is probably Zelensky is probably, I would imagine, is probably jealous of the guy's nose. I mean, how much powder could you get up there?
I'm not sure you should say that.
Maybe,
nothing has been proved.
But it's true. What was
nothing has been proved.
Allegedly. There we go. Have a look at this.
You know what's coming. If my thumb slips off this hand. Fire. I don't even know where I am right now.
Hell yeah. Shooter ready?
Not a day in my life. Oh,
Trans people on a firing range with weapons, Willembit. What could go wrong?
I don't understand what they were doing.
They were trying, should we say, to be on a firing range and trying to play at being soldiers.
But it was ridiculous.
I always get very nervous when I see trans people with guns.
Oh, is that what they were? Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize they were trans. Okay.
Yeah. There are two other short items just before we go. And we're going to leave on a note of real positivity here because this young man has become the youngest ever scorer in the Premier League. Arsenal were winning 1-0 with about 30 seconds to go. And then, of course, this happened, and hopefully this will load up in...
Arsenal get it clear through Martinelli. And here comes Dalman. What an end this is going to be. Max Dalman, the youngest goal scorer in Premier League history. What an impact he's made.
There we are, the young Arsenal winner, Max Dalman, at the age of 16 years and 73 days, has actually become the youngest ever scorer in Premier League history. And one other thing, of course, you will have heard, Lembit, about Kirsty Noem being fired, not only for her illegal activities in terms of $200,000. She was fired, of course, by should we say, Donald Trump and his admin team. And of course, there are all sorts of rumors going on about an affair with one of her underlings. And of course, her husband was right there when she was asked questions in the Congress, which she then refused to answer when she asked if she was having an affair, which made her husband, if he's not nervous, then it did make her family nervous. And they're starting to come out and have a go over Kirsty Noem. And of course, the husband came home early the other day, Lembit, and a few guys had just popped round to pick up the lawnmower. There we go. So, of course, it is one of those things. This woman is going to be out of a job and out of marriage very soon. Isn't it amazing that the border Barbie, who seemed to have the world at her feet, suddenly her whole world is collapsing around her?
I've never met her, and I can categorically state I have never had sexual relations with that woman.
You've got a point to be certain you're going to be thrown down. Lembit, where can people find you?
There at Lembit. Please do follow up on that. Just to take you a moment to follow me, and please go to @Unprecedented TV on YouTube. Take you 30 seconds to register. It's free at Lembedopic for me and at Unprecedented TV on the YouTube. And tomorrow morning, 0900 Greenwich Mean Time, you will see Warren Thornton and I talking about the challenges facing particularly the American Air Force, and probably a slightly wider ranging conversation about the bogged down nature of the American initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. But for the time being, we've run out of time. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.